Hi there, this is Jennifer. Welcome to Crafting in Carrollville. I'm so glad you've tuned in today. If you're new, I'm glad you found us. That was your subliminal message to subscribe, like, share, comment, all the things. These are the materials that we're going to be working with in today's project. Our first little project here is this adorable bunny shelf sitter. I picked him up at the bins. You know that's where I love to get all my upcycle materials. I've already attached to his base some resin molds. I did that off camera because I had to pour that same mold, I think 4 times, and I needed it to be bendy so that I could bend it around that curved surface. So I did that off camera just to save us some time. This is a longer video than I normally do. And I want you to hang out with me for the whole video because between this project and the next, I have something great to tell you about, an organizational tool that I think every crafter should have, just everybody in general. I want everybody to have one. We're using water slide on this project, water slide paper. You've seen me do this before. Maybe it's been a few videos since I've done a water slide project, but here it is. And I have filled up my little Tupperware full of lukewarm water. I've printed my images on the water slide paper with my regular inkjet printer. I have sealed the paper 3 times with Mod Podge acrylic sealer. And I've let my paper soak for 30 seconds to a minute. And as soon as it's sliding on that carrier sheet, it is ready to apply. So I've applied my first little image there. I have filled up 2 pages of water slide paper with images that I want to use on the front and the back of this bunny. He's going to be a 2-sided fella here, so we are definitely going to use water slide on both sides. This is a soft, like cedar wood, and somebody obviously cut it out. I think it's handmade. Cut it out with a jigsaw or a scroll saw, whichever. I love it. I want to make a bunch of these, so I'm definitely, before I sell this, I'm going to trace around that pattern because I love the fact that he's a flop-eared bunny. You don't see a lot of flop-eared bunnies out there. In the retail world, generally, it's just the, the regular looking bunnies. Anyway, so I didn't have any rhyme or reason for how I situated these images on this bunny. I did try to keep the bulk of like the bigger flowers in the bigger parts of his body. And then in the littler parts of his body, I put some of the little buds or the wispy little leaves, things like that. So there is an artistic way to apply these images to your substrate, and so really kind of think those details through. A detail that you might notice that's happening right now is that these flowers come to an end. They're on a stem. So the stem is hanging off the edge. It's not hanging in the middle of the air. So I think that's sort of important that we pay attention to those details. As I am applying my images, I'm also taking a paper towel and I am pressing the water out from under it because eventually when that water evaporates, you would be left with an air bubble and you don't want that either. I'm also using a little pair of scissors to cut some slits on the edges there so that I can actually wrap the water slide paper around the edges. And that wouldn't be an issue if there weren't also corners to deal with. So that's why I used my scissors. So you can see that this has all the versatility of a transfer. And let me tell you the big advantage to using water slide paper, and it should be obvious, that you can use absolutely any image you want, any image that you have permission to use. You're not at somebody's mercy for what they turned into a transfer. You can make your own transfers, basically. So that's super great information, and I'm going to have this product that I use, the water slide paper, linked in my description box. I do get a small commission for anything that you might buy that's in my Amazon store, but y'all know that. So like I said, I'm just being pretty random about where I put my images on my bunny. Super excited about this sweet little project. It's It's been a long time coming. This bunny has been in my stash for quite some time, and because of my new crafting tool that I can't wait to tell you about after this project, I have been able to get super duper duper organized. Now, I just got to tell you, I'm super excited about that. Anyway, you should be too, because I know that we all struggle with the same things. I struggle with a messy craft area and disorganization. And those two things just really disrupt my creativity and sometimes my will to live. Now, I'm just not even kidding. Like, I can't stand it. It gets to the point where I literally just want to throw everything in a dumpster and start over. So, and my husband would be just fine with that. He would bring the dumpster right away. I'm using my little tool that looks sort of like a Cricut tool to lift that up if I need it. That's another thing. You do have some playtime with this. You can see that if I don't get it exactly where I want it, I can move it. Now, and I'm going to tell you that this is something that I have had extensive experience in at this point. I've made a lot of water slide projects, and it definitely does get easier as you do it. So it's something that, you know, practice makes perfect, and you do have a little bit of forgiveness there. After I apply each of my images, I come back with that paper towel and I just make sure that the water's all pressed out. And also, the instructions want you to use lukewarm water. I always find that it's better to definitely be more warm than cool. So almost hot water is what I use. I cut a flat edge there, a straight edge, so that I could apply that to a straight edge. So that's another tip, is that you can always use that straight edge to make flowers grow up from the ground, or, you know, create the illusion that you want. Like I said, I'm doing both sides of this bunny, so this is side number 2, and again I'm using a bigger flower on the bigger part of his body, and then I'll come in with those more wispy elements on the smaller parts of his body, because that makes sense, right? I think this is definitely my favorite project on this video, because it sort of I didn't expect it to be as great as it is to me. I didn't expect to love it as much as I do. And I do love it. This is coming to our spring show with us. We're doing one spring show, actually 2 spring shows, but one in March in particular. It's a small show at one of our local farms. It's called Shop the Farm. And so that will be March 21st at M&M Farm in the Buckingham neighborhood of Fort Myers, Florida. They are a wedding venue and a working farm. They do a lot of stuff down there, really impressive stuff. But there will be probably 75 to 100 vendors at this show, and it is bougie. I'm going to tell you what, and it is beautiful. So I'm super excited. It's just a really quick 5-hour show on a Saturday. So we'll sort of get in and get out, but it will be a lot of fun. I'm also excited about going to a show, like as a spectator, not as a vendor. And I am doing that next month with a friend of mine. We're going to something called the Great Junk Hunt. So if you know anything about that, please let me know. I haven't really researched it yet. I just saw the tickets were available, and my friend Terry wanted to go, and I'm like, hey, I'm all in, let's go. So we're going next month. It's in Tampa. So if you know anything about that, tell me about it in the comments, what you know about it, what you like about it, why I should go, if we should try to be a vendor. That's another thing. Does my stuff fit in there? I don't know. You tell me. So I'm using this paint that I got from Home Depot. I say this all the time. I make my own chalk paint, buy a lot of chalk paint, but when I have a color that I really love and I want to use it in the way that I would use chalk paint, I add some calcium carbonate to it. I dissolve the calcium carbonate in some water, and then I stir it into my paint. So I always pour my paint into these peanut butter jars. You can ask my husband why we always have an excess amount of peanut butter jars. You could just ask him that. I finally told him, listen, these peanut butter jars are robbing me of my joy. I have too many of them. So I told him, don't save me peanut butter jars anymore, okay? Just throw them away. I don't need them. For the longest time, I thought I needed all of them. And it just felt like so much pressure. Like I gotta fill up this peanut butter jar with some crafting stuff. No, I don't. I can throw them away. It's how much I've grown. See? Okay, now, this bird nest is from the last year's spring release IOD had. It had some birds and a couple birds' nests, and I don't know what all it had on it. This is the first time I've used it. I actually just opened it. In time for this year's spring release. You know how it is. Talk about hoarding. I don't know. They won't fit in peanut butter jars. Okay, so I've painted it that same color that I was painting the molds on my bunny, and now I'm pouring some glaze into it so that it has, all those details are popping. That's why we use molds, right? Like we want all those details. We don't want to lose those. So I'm pouring the glaze, and it's going to sit in all those little recessed parts of my mold. And then I'm going to wipe it back with, it looks like a dry paper towel is what I'm using there. Sometimes, you can use a wet baby wipe to take out some of that glaze, but that will just cause it to be sort of muddy. So you do want to come back in and dry it. You don't want to leave it muddy, because that sort of defeats the purpose. I'm also using these birds from the original birdsong mold, but I decided that these don't make the cut. They're too big for my little clock project that we have going on after we're all done with my bunny there. But I decided to use some different birds, and I think that the mold that I use is actually by Redesign Prima. So I'm showing you this just to show you more of the process, and crafting evolves. Like I pour these birds, I prepare them, everything, I paint them, and then I decide that they're just too big for the project. But I also have these butterflies. I have the butterfly mold from IOD, and what I'm going to do with the butterfly, of course, is I'm going to put that in the bunny's hand that he has outstretched there, because I just think that's such a great little whimsical detail. I love whimsy in my projects, so I'm using that same glaze to do the flowers on the bottom of my bunny there. I love him so much, and I'm also using whatever is left over on my brush to just distress the edges of that bunny all the way around. He gets some distressing. And then, of course, I don't think I show it, but I do glue a butterfly to his little outstretched hand there. I love that. I think it's so cute. So precious. And you'll see that at the end. I don't think I show myself doing that part of it. But in order to make that butterfly look like he's, resting on something and not in flight, I tape his wings shut just a tiny little bit, and I make sure that the resin hardens that way by taping it. So I've done that for you. About 2 videos ago, I think I used some butterflies in a Valentine's Day project that I made for our last show, which was last month. We had a super great show in the month of January. So there's my bunny all finished without his butterfly, but if you watch till the very end, you'll see that he does get a little butterfly on his nose. He's super cute. And sometimes I let things just sort of linger on my workspace there for a while, and I think about what else I can do to them. I don't know about y'all, but I don't always walk into my workshop with a clear-cut idea of what I'm doing. Sometimes I just have, pieces of an idea. Maybe I do add the butterfly on camera, but there I do have it in my hand. I try to use super glue, but my resin was acting really, really funny this week, and I think because it was just so cold in my workshop, and if I tell you how cold it's been in Florida, I know you'll just laugh at me because, so many of y'all live up north and it's been really cold. But I will tell you this, it's been cold for us, and I am not complaining because I'm okay with that. Like, we suffer through the heat all year long. So sometimes we enjoy a little cold, but not what y'all have. Like, we don't want the snow, we don't want the ice, we don't want any of that. Because, listen, like Southwest Florida would be destroyed if that happened. Like, you have to understand that. We can't do it. Like, we ain't made for it. We don't have the roads. We don't have, we can't do it. Seriously, it would be the end of us. Anyway, yeah, so I did attach that butterfly to his little hand, and I love it so much. Like, he is so super cute. If I'd have known he was going to turn out to be so darling, I definitely would have done this project a long time ago. But instead, he was hiding in my shelves, and I had forgotten that he was even there. So I'm just distressing those edges a little bit more with whatever's left on my brush there. That super glue, the Loctite super glue, is super great as far as texture goes and how easy it is to use. But there ain't hardly nothing in those containers, and it's expensive. So I'm not sure it has my wholehearted endorsement, just so you know. I did have to come in with some hot glue to stick that resin butterfly onto his little paw there. That super glue just wasn't gonna hold it. So that's what I ended up doing. I just came back with some hot glue to finish that off. And I love the way this turned out. I definitely, like I said, I'm going to trace around that pattern, keep it in my workshop, and I will definitely cut some more of those out. If you do like to trace around shapes that you want to make more of, it's a great idea also to scan them into your computer. That way you can change the size as well. So if you wanted to make a bigger bunny or a smaller bunny, you could scan that shape into your computer, take it into whatever artistic program you like, Canva, Photoshop, whatever, and change the size. Print yourself out a bigger pattern. I love that. You have so many options if you know how to do stuff. Super exciting. I'm just wiping back some of that wax. I'm going to tell you about my favorite organizational tool now, so be sure you stay through the next 5 minutes to learn about it, and we'll catch you on the other side with our second project. So in my last video, I teased about this organizational tool that y'all would be talking about and wanting, and I just have been so anxious to show you my talking label wand. And I was introduced to this by my counselor from the Division of Blind Services. Y'all know that I struggle with low vision and some issues related to blindness. So this isn't something that I knew about or would have known about without the Division of Blind Services, but it's not just for people with low vision, and you're going to see that when I tell you, when I show you what it does. So this is the Talking Label Wand. There is also a name brand one called Pen Friend, and I'm going to have that one linked in the description box as well. But what we do here is we take a label and we put it on a container. We'll say this container right here, and I want to put it on the same place. So if I have multiple of these containers, and I do, I want to put it in the same place. These labels are washable, and they stick really well. They don't come off easily. You could label your clothes with them, whatever it is you want to label. But my issue is that once I put this bin on my closet shelf here in my office, I'm not going to be able to see what's in it. So I don't want to take these bins off of my shelf on the top closet rack every time I need to see what's in here. So to avoid that, I am going to use my labeling pen, and you may have ascertained that, well, it's called a wand really because it doesn't write at all. That's not what it does. But you're going to see what it does here in just a minute. So here I am. I'm loading up this bin with some different things that I want out of sight, but not out of mind. Because if I just put them up on my shelf without telling myself what's in there, they might as well be gone, because I am going to ignore them and not do anything with them. And that's not really why we collect craft supplies, is it? So has nothing to do with really low vision at this point. This is just a great organizational tool, and also for people that suffer from low memory, which, don't we all? So I am going to use my wand here. This is what it looks like. Sorry, I should have recorded this in my studio, but you know what I forgot? And maybe I'll put a label somewhere and remind myself of this. I forgot that I actually muted my camera out there so it doesn't record sound. So I can record out there, but I can't speak. So this is the way we're doing this today, and so it's not going to be the greatest demonstration you ever did see, but this is going to be the greatest tool you ever did see. So I'm going to turn this on.
Power on.
And it's going to tell me that it's turned on, because remember, I have low vision and I might not be able to see that light, although that's not the case. Now, what I'm going to do next is I am going to look at what I have in my bin. I have some canisters of wood beads from Walmart. I have wall pockets with pictures already affixed, so I just have to do a flower arrangement in them. And I have 4 octagon frames with glass in them. So that is what I'm going to tell my wand is in this bin. And I'm going to do that by pressing this red button and pointing it to this label.
This is a new label.
And now I'm going to record what is in that bin.
Start recording.
There are 4 octagon frames, 2 peanut butter jars of wood beads from Walmart, and 2 wall planters with pictures already affixed, a picture of my sheep and a picture of my red truck.
Recording completed.
So it already recorded my voice of me telling it what is in this. And now let's say I pull this out of the closet, or I don't pull it out of the closet, rather, because I don't want to pull it out of the closet. I can't see what's in there. It's on the top shelf. But I point my wand on the label. There are 4 octagon frames, 2 peanut butter jars of wood beads from Walmart, and 2 wall planters with pictures already affixed, a picture of my sheep and a picture of my red truck. All right, so there you go. That is the talking label wand. I will have this linked in my description box for y'all. You can buy it on Amazon, and I do get a small commission if you choose to buy one. It won't increase the price for you. But I'm super excited about this tool, because have you ever seen something so wonderful? Probably not. Okay, so we've seen this little bird nest before. I painted it previously, I waxed it or glazed it, and now I'm just going over it with a very dry white brush, because I still want those details to pop, and so I want this to be a little bit brighter than it was. So I'm just coming back with a very dry brush, and I'm going to give the birds the same treatment, even though I'm not using those birds in this project. They don't quite make the cut. I think I mentioned that. So the birds that I do use, though, are going to be finished the exact same way. I'm going to come in with the wax, the glaze, all the things, and then I'm going to give them the same dry brush treatment. So I put these birds aside, and I will definitely use them in a future project. They were just too big for the little clock that I had in mind. sometimes we come out in our workshops and crafts just come together over, in real time. Like, we don't have anything super planned out, even though that would be the better way to do things. I really have to tell myself to be more organized, and, which I'm working on, obviously, with my little talking label wand. So I'm trying my best to get organized. Sometimes I think the very best way is just like to get a dumpster and put it in the driveway and just start over. Okay, so I have taken the face off of my clock. I've taken it apart, and I need to fill that hole where the clock mechanism fit from the back to the front. So I am going to close off the back by fixing this heart, and then when I paint it, there will just be that heart shape back there, and I think that's just super whimsical and cute. And honestly, it was just what I had near me. My original idea was I was just going to take a little snip of like a tongue depressor, or a paint stir stick, but I had that little heart, so that's what I used. And then I'm going to use this spackle from the Dollar Tree, which I think this might be like an endangered species right now, this spackling from the Dollar Tree. Listen, this is what I really think. I'm going to tell you. I think they're getting rid of everything that costs $1.25 at the Dollar Tree is what I think. So I haven't been able to find a lot of the supplies that we use on a regular basis. So I'm using this putty knife to put that spackle in the hole, and I'm going to scrape just as much of it as I can away from the hole itself, but the hole itself I'm going to try to leave a little bit raised because it does shrink a little bit as it dries, and then when it dries I can come in with a sander and take off any of the excess. So that will work just fine, and this doesn't take very long to dry. In fact, it's already dried out anyway for the most part. I've had it around for a while. That's the other thing about the Dollar Tree spackle. You do have to use it kind of quick because it does dry out. This is what I think really about the Dollar Tree. I think we have to change the name of it to It's a Few Bucks Tree. That's what I think. Okay. So I've taken my clock apart, like I said. The glass was glued in there, so I got to leave the glass in there. Can't take it out. There's no safe way to take it out since it's partially glued. So I'm just going to leave it in there, and that will work out just fine for my DIY purposes here. I think it's going to be super pretty. I'm painting this a blue. I don't know exactly what color of blue it is, but it is a plaid paint, folk art paint from the Plaid Company. The Plaid Company sponsors some of my library projects once in a while, so sometimes we have some paint left over and I got to use it up before it dries up. This one's almost to the bottom. We used it in a previous project at the library. So thank you to Plaid for always being so generous with our library projects. I am going to take this handle off, and there's two reasons why I don't use it. I'm going to tell you, one is more important than the one reason. So the one reason I didn't use it is that it was plasticky and resin. It was not metal, and so I felt like it was super cheap anyway, and it really, I couldn't replace it with something much better. The second reason was it came apart in 3 pieces like it was supposed to, and then I lost one of the pieces. So that's really why I didn't use it. Okay, so I am using water slide paper again for the back of my clock. I printed this image out, of course, from Creative Fabrica. This was a junk journal, what do they call it? Junk journal sets, junk journal kits, whatever it is. Anyway, this had the specific colors in it that I was looking for. I was looking for that blue, those pinks, those creams. I really wanted this to be like very shabby chic, French provincial sort of look. So I'm just using water slide paper again to transfer that image to my clock face here, which is no longer a clock face. There are several methods you could use to do this. You could print on rice paper and decoupage it. You could use tissue paper from the Dollar Tree, still $1.25 while you can get it. And also you could use just regular printer paper. I do that quite a bit. When I use my inkjet printer, whether it's water slide or whatever, I seal the ink. So I seal it with Mod Podge acrylic spray, or in the case of, something that's not water slide paper that specifically has to be sealed with acrylic spray, I spray it with hairspray. Which, heaven forbid, I should ever get any of those two mixed up and like use acrylic spray on my hair. Could you imagine? Anyway, look, I made a big giant mess here, but I'm gonna come back and clean it up. You're gonna see. When those edges are dry, I'm gonna come in with a sander and sand them off like I would had I decoupaged this project. I have a roll of craft paper on the side of my crafting table here, and so anytime that things just get too messy for me to handle, which is about right now, I just roll out another sheet, and that way, honestly, it keeps things clean for me, and it also keeps things easier to look at when I'm crafting for y'all, because I hate it when things look a mess and y'all have to look at that. I feel like it's not pleasant. Anyway, so here's our little backer that's going to go right back into our clock, and like I said, it's going to be like super dimensional. I'm also going to be gluing the little bird's nest to this actual clock face, and that's going to go back inside the clock, and then the birds are going to be on the outside. So it's going to be three-dimensional that way, and I absolutely love that option. So leaving the glass in there was probably a really happy accident that happened, because I had no intention of leaving it in there. I thought it would pop right out, but nope, it was glued in. So you saw that I came in with my finger sander there, and I just cleaned up those edges. That worked out just fine. And now I'm just, making sure that everything is landing where I want it to land. I'm also sort of eyeing things up so I know exactly where to glue my bird's nest, and I don't think that I show myself doing that. But in any case, that's what happens. I come in with some hot glue and I glue the bird's nest onto the corner of my backer there. I'm sorry I don't show that. You can see here in my little container that I save absolutely every screw that I take out of everything, because chances are I'm going to need it in the future, and for these things I just put them back in there. But heck if I could dig through all that and find the right ones, so I just use whichever ones I came across. That's the way Jennifer rolls. You just have to know. That's the way Jennifer rolls. So I just find 4 little short screws and I screw that back into the clock. These little mantle clocks, shelf sitter clocks, they are excellent DIY upcycle projects. I find myself picking these up every single time at the thrift store, and you probably should too. And for some reason, every one that I've done so far, I have put birds on in some form or another. And I guess I keep doing that because they keep selling. So, if they didn't sell, that would be one thing. But every single time I have made one of these, they have sold at the very first show that I've taken them to. Clocks, these shelf sitter clocks, they always sell. Another thing that always sells are little wood boxes, like I did, I think in the very last video that I put on YouTube, we made a wood box. So anytime you can pick up wood boxes, these little clock shelf sitters, those are super great to work with, just so you know. We do a lot of shows, so I can tell you in my area what sells and what you want to be on the hunt for. If y'all have something great that you sell in your area, tell me, I want to know. So that's how that little nest looks in there. I love that. I think it's just so dainty and elegant and just so pretty. I love the way this particular project turns out. And I'm going back to my shabby chic roots here. I love shabby chic so much. I love French provincial, French country, all that stuff. Super great. So now that I know it's where I want it, I can finish screwing those screws back in there. I didn't want to screw them all in and then figure out I had them in the wrong place. I have, if you notice, this clock was blue, and now I have changed the color, but I added crackle medium first, so that blue is still popping through. I didn't want to get rid of that blue completely, but it was just too bright for me, so I really just wanted to tone it down, and that blue is still popping through the crackle, the cracks, and now here I am. I've attached, or I am attaching, my replacement birds. My little birds that I originally cast were just too big, so I'm using these instead. These are from Redesigned by Prima, and I'm just arranging them so that they look, in place. And I also want those branches to be coming in from the edge. You can't have branches just hanging out with no particular place to be. They do have to be anchored. So, and I give these the exact same finish I gave the last ones, and that's with the same paint color, the glaze, and then of course I'm coming back in with the dry brush with the white paint on it to give them their final finish. I love this little project so much. I really, this was one of those projects that caused me a little bit of frustration. First of all, I lost the little handle, so I had to find me another one, which wasn't really a problem because I got plenty. That wasn't an issue. And I liked what I put on it much better, first of all. Second of all, the birds that I originally cast were too big. So, you know what, I say that to tell you to not get discouraged in your crafting. Just keep going. Just find something that works better. It's always a good idea if you have some sisters, that like to craft, ask their opinion. That helps. And then when they have two different opinions, well, just listen to the one you like best, I guess. I don't know. So all right, so we still have to find a topper to replace the one that I lost on this little clock. So I'm going to look through my hardware and see what I can find. In the meantime, I'm going to drill a hole on the top of this because I have this finial that I found in my stash. I'm going to go ahead and use that. I have a ton of hardware. For some reason, I just pick up so much every time I see them. I pick up drawer pulls and that kind of stuff at the bins all the time. This came from a curtain rod, I believe, and I never feel bad taking pieces and parts of things from the bins because it's all going to the landfill if you don't rescue it. I'm going to give this exactly the same finish that I gave the clock to begin with. I'm going to paint it blue underneath, then I'm going to give it that layer of crackle, and then I'm going to paint it the lighter color on top. So it's going to have that same finish. I do come in and fill those tiny little holes up there just with some, what's it called? Some spackle again. And then I just do little dabs of paint over it. Those bothered me when I saw them. So I fix little things like that you might see along the way. I see them too. Sometimes it takes me a minute because, I do have some vision problems, but it's definitely getting better. My last step in this whole process is to give it a final coat of clear wax. I'm just using the Waverly clear wax. I like the way that looks, and I especially like the way it feels. For me, it just has this soft feel to it, and I like the smoothness that it gives the project. I feel like this crackle paint could be sort of a rough texture, but that wax really smooths it out. So you know how you do it. You brush it on, and then you just take like a dry lint-free cloth and give it a nice buffing. So that works really well for me. Always try to use the same brushes for my different mediums, so my wax brushes are different than the brushes I paint with generally for the most part. A lot of people use my brushes, so I don't always get to, can't always vouch for the condition that they're in because generally we use all my brushes and things at the library. I've told you all that we do a monthly craft workshop at our local library. Sometimes my husband comes with me if I need extra help. Or he rescues me when I forget to bring something, one of my many supplies that I haul there on a regular basis. So here I am, I'm just wiping that excess wax off of this project. I love the way this sweet little thing turns out. I just think it's so darling. I love everything about it. That's what it's looking like in its finished state. And we do have one more project coming up on this video. This video is much longer than I like to produce, but you know, I wanted to show you the Dollar Tree DIY because I feel like it's a great thing to make if you need to make a Valentine's Day box. So if you have small children, this is a great option. I found these truck cutouts at the Dollar Tree, and then the crate obviously came from the Dollar Tree. I'm using wood glue and hot glue to glue them all together. So we're going to use that crate as a truck bed. I love that option. I've seen this project done a few different times, a few different ways, but this is just what came to mind when I saw these truck cutouts on clearance for 25 cents. I picked up 50 of them because anytime I do a library project or plan for a library project, I need something we can get done in an hour and a half and something that I can provide for 20 crafters. So this was sort of a no-brainer. I saw these and I knew that this would make a great library project. I'm giving my truck some hubcaps, and turns out it wouldn't have mattered what they were because in the end the heart shape isn't going to show, because I also decide that my truck needs fenders. So I just can't please myself in this video. I'm sorry. Like, I really just can't decide which way I want to do anything. But anyway, it turns out that I gave the girls at the library the option of using half beads or little round cutouts that I had, and they made those work really beautifully. I love doing the library project because people think of ideas that I never would, so I love that. If you don't know, if you return your Amazon returns to Staples, at least at my Staples, they have big bins in the middle of the aisle, and you can pick whatever is in the bin that may have been an Amazon return for a set price that day. So Wednesdays, whatever you find in the Amazon bins is $4, and that's where I got these flowers. So, and this was enough flowers for us to do 20 trucks at the library, plus I have plenty left over. So they got their pick. We did a Valentine's Day theme specifically, but you know, it also lends itself well to spring or really any holiday or occasion you could make this work for. I'm making little signs for my truck on either side. These are just like those little wood slats that came from Hobby Lobby or something. I just cut them in half because they were a little too big to make the signs for my truck. And then of course I got these graphics from Creative Fabrica. We all got the same graphics this time. Sometimes I offer different choices. We went with Valentine's Day, obviously, because it's, you know, February. It's the February project, and we have 2 more months we could fit in spring. So I decided to go ahead and go with a Valentine's Day theme for this. And I thought it made a great centerpiece for my table. You're going to see at the end how that worked out. I'm just using a glue stick to stick these little cutouts to their sign. And the reason is, when I craft at the library, sometimes we just have to use what's fast because we have to get it done in an hour and a half. So we don't have time to watch paint dry necessarily or wait for Mod Podge to dry. We just have to move on. So we're using a glue stick to stick these little papers down. And then, you know, as always, I'm going to go and trim them up with my little finger sander there. I'm also going to use my ink pad to give them a distressed edge. For something small this way, sometimes I just don't feel like getting everything out, so I just reach for my ink pad, which is in a little drawer right at my workstation. So there I am. I'm just going to rub that all around the edges, just like that. And that just gives it that nice little finishing touch, that little piece of, you know, rustic that we like. I really love this project. I am not a Dollar Tree crafter. I would never say that I'm a Dollar Tree crafter, but I do love this particular project. You know, the way it turned out, it's a Dollar Tree project. But sometimes when I'm, you know, looking for a quick project for the library to do, Dollar Tree is a great option. So anyway, Dollar Tree's changed a lot, that's for sure. We've talked about that. I think we're going to call it It's a Few Bucks Tree, like I said. I think we're really going to do that. I'm going to paint my truck a very light pink, and I'm going to actually add some burnt umber to it as well, so that it just has a little more depth. It's, you know, just gives it a little more of that rustic feel. And, you know, let's face it, this truck's old, so it's supposed to be old anyway, so I'm going to make it look old. So I put my paint. I always mix my paint up on a on a plate. Sometimes I use like real china plates that I get from the bins, but this time I'm using paper plates that I got at the bins. I'm also not content with obviously this open truck the way it is there, so I actually come back with tongue depressor sticks or those little thin paint stir sticks that you get from the Home Depot. I think they come 20 in a pack. They're $1.48. So I give the truck a top and a hood and a grill, all those things, and it looks much more complete, and you're going to see that at the end. I also add some more embellishments, some heart embellishments than it currently has. I'm not ready to talk about what medium I've used to make this lace, but we are going to talk about it in a coming video very soon. But the reason I'm not talking about it yet is this was just a happy accident. I had no intention. I didn't know that my truck was going to need fenders, or at least I thought it was going to need fenders, and I didn't know what I was going to use to make those fenders, and my eyes just fell on this. I was getting it ready for another project, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use that right now. So that's what I did. I didn't have enough for everybody to use it at the library, but they used the tongue depressor sticks or whatever those were to make their own fenders, and you can cut those with scissors. So that's what they did, and it worked out just well. So many people had so many ideas that shocked me. Like, I took half beads for them to make their hubcaps with, or little wood cutouts. I gave them choices, but they used the half beads for headlights, and I thought that was so clever. Like, I didn't think of that. So, and I loved, I provide all the materials they need to make a project, and sometimes I limit the choices, because if you give people too many choices, you can't get it done in the amount of time that we have. So I took a few colors. And we sort of, we have a little lesson in color theory and how to make this color or that color or whatever. So with just a few colors, they all managed to do something different and unique. So it was great. We had a really great time. I'm using these little scissors to cut my fender into the shape that I need it to be. And I really can't wait to cover what that is, but we're just not there yet. So I have to make the stuff and then figure out a project I want to do with it. How's that? So that's how our truck is looking. Keep in mind that I do come back in and I use those paint stir sticks to make a top to my truck, and then I also make a hood and the front grille. I don't do that on camera because honestly, this project, sometimes the library project, it fits well into what I'm doing. It's going to be in a video, or I'm going to make them to sell. But this was not one of those projects. I am never making this again. This was a one and done for one thing. And for another thing, I'm not going to sell this project. This is just going to sit on my kitchen table for as long as I want it to. But I am coming in with the finishing wax. I'm going to distress the edges. I'm going to do all the things that we do with finishing wax. I'm also going to turn those hubcaps into more of a metallic look with my rub and buff. I have several different shades. And then that's the last step, and I'm going to add a few more embellishments that you'll see at the end of this video. We've reached the end of our video. I'm sorry it was so long. I hope that y'all enjoy that organizational tool that I couldn't wait to share with you. Stick around to the end so you can see how all 3 projects turned out, and I'll see y'all real soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.